maybe my first comment would be just to acknowledge the people of Niagara Falls. They have welcomed our families into their community during one of our most difficult periods in our history. We understand the pressure this has placed on the city, its healthcare, schools, emergency services, and local organizations. We're grateful for their support. Yeah, maybe you can start by asking questions. Sorry.
Yeah, that'll work. Thank you so much. It's Carl here. I'm co-host of One Dish, One Mic, and that's the impression I've gotten is that everybody is grateful for the opportunity to play host to the people of Kashechewan. But when I see these narratives from the mayor and the CAO that are about the strain on the city services, I'm not sure. That's not my read from what's happening on the ground. And maybe people don't. Maybe you can explain it from the perspective of the people of Kashechewan. Like you didn't choose to come here. You're here because you were displaced and driven to Niagara Falls. Maybe you can talk about what brought you here in the first place.
Yeah. Well, sorry. The main point that I got from the article is I just want to remind everybody who is carrying the greatest burden here. It's our families. It's our children, it's our grandparents, it's our families that are carrying this burden for the past 7 months now. And I think, what got us here? This is a long history of Kashechewan. This is not our only evacuation in the past 20 years. We've evacuated our community for over that length, and every year we evacuate for either the infrastructure, the dike infrastructure, the risk of flooding, and for this year it's the water situation, the infrastructure failure there, and it's just so much to unpack, so much to really digest, to really tell the story of the community. And it's kind of a national tragedy as I would kind of put it, because our community has suffered countless evacuations over so many years, and today the city of Niagara Falls is worried about its services being used by Indigenous people. Sorry, maybe you can kind of ask another question.
Yeah, no worries at all. We do appreciate your time, and we can appreciate how hard of a conversation this is that we're having right now. Now, maybe from a high level technical aspect of, I guess, some of the funding agreements that exist, the biggest narrative that came through from the former CEO, Mr. Ken Todd, is that there is no funding that is coming from the federal government in regards to the evacuations. Maybe you could shed some light on that. I do know that the First Nations people who are living at the hotels are paying a rate that is significantly higher than the standard rates. Do you have any comments on that?
I'm not prone to that information. I know the maximum daily rate that ISC covers is about $250 a day and whatnot. So, but for Kashechewan, we have 1,700 people evacuated in 4 host cities across Ontario, and Niagara Falls is one of the most populated ones. We have 1,046 people in Niagara Falls, and so it's Timmins, Cochrane, Kapuskasing, Niagara Falls, and Kingston that are our host sites. So, yeah.
I really want to commend you for joining us and talking to us. And
but sorry, I don't think I answered your question fully.
Yep.
But we're estimating the cost of this evacuation for the government is over $100 million, because we're staying in hotels for 6 months now. People are being fed. The government's been probably spending $140 a day on food, all the wraparound services, security, all the other services that are being provided. So it is quite an expensive undertaking for the government to do this. But then again, adequately providing funding for infrastructure would have saved them quite a lot of money. And I think there is no real cost-benefit analysis that the government really does in providing funding for our communities, and instead they really go all out when when emergencies like this happen. So
we again, thank you so much for joining us. I really want to make sure that we're giving as much space as possible. You had talked about the families that are on the ground, and these are the people that are carrying the most burden. Can you talk about what you're hearing from your members and from the people that are in Niagara Falls from your community?
Well, children are wondering when they'll sleep in their own beds again. Grandparents are separated from the land and going out on it. People having to raise their children in hotel rooms. How can you explain to our children that this is normal? So, we wish we weren't in this situation, but this is the situation that we have to go through. And I remember being a teenager having to evacuate from my community from E. coli in the water back in 2004. And today I see another generation of community members, another generation of kids having to suffer through that again. And Kashechewan's story is not new. It's not a new story, but it happens. It happens quite often. And as Niagara Falls is starting to realize, First Nations communities are being hosted in the city far too often, and it's becoming a preferred host site because it has the services that are required to host a big number of people. So, but overall, Kashechewan has been promised relocation for over 18 years, and that hasn't happened. We are working tirelessly to try to push government and to try to work on these things that the government needs to relocate our community. So if we relocate, I think it will prevent us from evacuating every year, and it saves the government money, taxpayers' money.
Now, like you said during your last response, is that this is a problem that has continuously happened. Kashechewan is not the first community that has faced evacuations. We've seen numerous communities come here to Niagara Falls, given the large hotel industry that exists here. What we've noticed is that the government seems to be reactive to these situations. Again, like every single year, we know there's going to be a wildfire. We know that there's going to be flooding. We know that there's going to be some sort of crisis that happens that's going to force First Nations communities out of their homes. What would you say to the government, all levels of government, when wanting them to deal with this?
I know it's hard to say. As we kind of go further into the future, and as global warming is starting to affect this country, I think First Nations communities will bear the burden of this climate disaster, and places like Niagara Falls and other host sites, preferable host sites, will start seeing an increase in these emergencies as our communities are located in remote northern areas. So it is really something that will probably become normal, but it is scary. It's a scary situation to be in. So I don't know if that really answers your question, but I think it kind of directs it to a larger issue about our climate. So
I'm glad you framed it that way. Tyson, we're coming up to our last minute or so. Is there anything we haven't asked you that you want to make sure our listeners are aware of?
When you see a Native person walking your streets, I think the first assumption is not that person is homeless. I think if it's our children, it's our family members that are walking these streets, and I think they deserve dignity, they deserve respect like every other Canadian in this country. And if your first thought is it's a homeless person, that's just a stereotype that I don't know if you're the former mayor or CEO of a country, a town in this country, like I think you need to get a better job or something that doesn't, like, these positions are supposed to be positions that you hold respect, and you kind of, sorry, it's just outrageous that to hear those comments from former mayor or former anything. It's just outlandish, and it doesn't belong in this century. And the fact that he recommends us to be in a school where we can be accommodated, that just sounds like a residential school to me. If you're telling me those recommendations that he has, and he wants us to be in a remote area, unseen from everybody. Sorry, it's just, call it what it is. It is racist. I'm not going to frame it as miss something, but yeah, I think our people are offended, and our children, our grandparents, and our families deserve better to be called homeless people walking around Niagara Falls. So thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.